Hi, Anirudh.
Hello. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir. Hello, sir.
How are you,
Hi,
sir?
uh,
Hi,
Diptansh.
Babu.
Hi, Diptansh. So,
After a long time, we have met, sir.
yeah. Yes.
Yes.
So, we will start in a couple of minutes. I'm just waiting for others to join. So,
Sure,
and
sir.
I'm recording this session and we can have it on the YouTube channel also. So, I think
Yes.
we may get started. Is that okay, Harshit?
Yes, sir.
Sure. So, anyone wants to introduce, like, before we start, or what is your background in Kafka? If you can give me that idea, then it will help me in customizing this session for your needs.
Sir, I can say a word.
Yeah. Please go ahead, Akshay.
Sir, it's tomorrow, sir, we have to start with Kafka. Our teacher started with Kafka. Beforehand, we have taught Scoop about Scoop and its commands.
Got it.
So we can give an overview. You can give us overview so that we can learn Kafka about in full details, sir.
Got it. And
Yes,
Anil,
sir.
what's your background?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, Keshav, I can hear you.
I'm audible.
Yes, I can
Yeah.
hear
Sir, I just want to ask one query regarding Scoop. Scoop platform. Is
you.
Scoop? We can run Scoop over like internet. Is there something platform where like GCP and everything? Is there? We can run Scoop there.
Dataproc you can use to run scope commands.
Data from that is online. That's free.
Yeah, you will get $300 credit, Gmail credits. So I'm just sharing my screen. I will show you.
Okay.
So give me a second.
Okay, sir.
See,
Thank you.
no problem. So here you can go to Google Dataproc. More people are joining. Dataproc cluster you can set up using Google free credits, $300 credits that you get. Okay, so we can take these questions maybe after the session. Is that okay? Like once we are done with Kafka?
Yeah. That will be fine.
Okay, so just remind me, we will come back here. So, anyone wants to introduce, like, what's your background in Kafka, Sanskar? You want to share? What's your background in Kafka, or Hemanya, or Diptansh?
You can say I'm a beginner in Kafka.
Okay.
Just uh,
Other ingestion
just
or
saw two
big
videos.
frameworks? Have you worked with some other event streaming framework or big data frameworks?
No.
Okay, got it. So no worries. This session is basically first in the series, and we will be having more sessions in future. So you can basically get started with Confluent and Apache Kafka. So we will start with that. So before we start, I just want to quickly introduce about this meetup. So this meetup is all things data, and we regularly do this meetup. Almost like this meetup is happening in once in a 2 weeks frequency right now. So this meetup, we have done a couple of sessions related to data science, and these sessions are also available on our YouTube channel. And we have a session on Confluent and Apache Kafka today. And we will be first going through the theory, and then we will see some practical as well in this session. So you can expect like this session will be lasting for next maybe 90 minutes or so. So this is about me. And if you have not connected with me on LinkedIn, please do connect. So you will find all the details about me on the LinkedIn itself. So let's get started with the session. So we are actually discussing Confluent Kafka and like Confluent platform and Apache Kafka. So very first thing is like how this thing actually like worked and what is Apache Kafka. So let's discuss that. So we will be discussing what is Apache Kafka, and we will see how things evolved over a period of time. So I hope you can see my whiteboard, and we will quickly write down the key aspects of Apache Kafka. So very first thing is like in year 2010, this is year 2010, LinkedIn released Kafka. This is open sourced. This is open source now. In 2011, it was open sourced. This became open source software. 2014, Confluent company was formed, and this company is basically providing distribution for Kafka. I will talk about it, what exactly Confluent provides and how it is different from Apache Kafka. And then 2015, this Kafka Connect framework was created. No need to worry, I'm just writing the timeline and later on I will explain what exactly it is. And then this is Kafka Streams API. 2017, we have KSQL. This was KSQL. And then this is KSQL. And then 2019, here KSQL, it was renamed to KSQL DB. So like that, things are moving fast in Kafka ecosystem. So what I wanted to show you here is initially when Kafka started, it started as a pub sub. So initially Kafka started, so it was just a publisher and subscriber, publisher and subscriber. This was basically in 2015 when you can use Kafka for connecting with external systems. You can connect for connecting Kafka with external systems without writing single line of code if you have the connector. External systems, right? So you can connect Kafka. This is basically for processing messages, processing data in real time. In real time. So that is another purpose of Kafka. And this one is for analysis. So I'm just writing here, analysis of data. So you can see like what problem LinkedIn was facing in 2010. So the problem was related to the messed up architecture of LinkedIn. So I will quickly show you the architecture of LinkedIn, which was basically having issue. So wherever you are not very clear with anything, feel free to ask. But right now, I will just take 5 minutes to explain the background, like why Kafka was created. And after that, I will take up the questions and then you can clarify, like if something is not clear. So I will show you the problem scenario first, and then we will see like the solution which was introduced to solve the problem that LinkedIn was facing. So LinkedIn architecture, as I mentioned, was messed up. So when I say messed up, it was basically having very coupled architecture. So coupled architecture in the sense like there were so many technologies. So I'm just showing you the LinkedIn architecture in 2000, maybe 8 or so. So at that time, Kafka was not there. So the overall, this platform, you can see it is having so many complexities. Now we have a very clean architecture. So Kafka was introduced to solve this problem. Can you see this architecture is messed up? There are so much like so many links and so much tight coupling among different systems. So there will be duplicate data flowing all across in the enterprise. So there were a lot of issues with this architecture. So in order to solve this problem, Kafka was introduced. And what was the solution? I will show you the solution. This is the solution to this problem. So this was the problem that LinkedIn was facing. And this is a solution that was created to solve this problem. Any questions till now? Are we clear with this thing? Are we clear like why Kafka was created? I will explain this more, don't worry, but just be with me and understand like what exactly is happening. So this was basically initially created to solve the problem. LinkedIn was facing a problem before 2010 and Kafka was created to solve this problem, and it was basically a publisher subscriber. So systems were publishing messages and the subscribers were basically getting the messages from Kafka. So do you receive newspaper at your home? Which newspaper do you receive every day? Newspaper. Which newspaper you receive? Anyone? Hindustan Times, Times of India. So this is like Hindustan Times or Times of India, and someone is publishing, and we are subscribed to that. So we are consumers. We are consumers, and we are consuming this newspaper. So we are subscribed to the newspaper. So you can say in one, let's say we have this family. So we have family. This is family one. And this is another family which is subscribed to the newspaper, maybe some newspaper. It can be Hindustan Times or Times of India. So this family too. So these families are actually subscribed to the newspaper, right? So you are basically like someone is publishing the data, and here we are getting this information, like we are subscribed to it, right? So we have this flow going on, like the data is being published and it is being subscribed by the family members. Now, same thing happens in Kafka. So what happens basically when we say Kafka is a pub sub, so it means that the systems, there will be some systems which will be producing data, some systems will be producing data, will be producing data, and some systems will be subscribing to the data. Systems will be subscribing or will be consuming the data. So we will be calling the producers and consumers. So in Kafka, so we will use these terms producers. So we will be calling them producers and we will be calling these as consumers. So these are the names that we will be commonly using. So in case you hear about producer or consumer, then don't get confused. So it is just about like who is producing and who is subscribing to that. So that is basically the high level idea. Now, what is Apache Kafka? So Apache Kafka is, do you know what is an event? My question to you is, what is an event before we talk about Kafka? What is an event? Anyone? What is an event? Have you heard about
Any
it?
trigger?
Any trigger? Very good. So anything that happens or happens right now, or basically it's like anything that is basically event occurred. So event could have occurred in the past, or it anything that happens right now, or that is happening right now, I should say, that is happening right now. Anything that is happening right now, right? So that is a common definition you will hear. Or maybe you have storing some event, so maybe you are having some past events so that occurred before. Maybe you have some events which occurred before, so maybe past events you want to store. So like there is a concept which is called everything in this world is an event. This is a very bold claim. So let's take this example. Let's take this example and focus here. Everything in this world is an event. For example, if a row is added in database, in table, database added in database table, then we say it is an event. If a Twitter tweet happens, then it is an event. If a log file line or maybe CSV file line is written, then it is another event. Can you see? Anything which is happening in this world is an event. So everything which is happening, like even I am speaking right now, it's an event. So you can assume like everything which is happening in this world, all data. So I am writing in terms of data. So all data is an event stream. Stream means flowing data. Stream means, when I say stream, it's unbounded or flowing data. I am talking about flowing data, continuous data, right? So what is an event? Anything that is happening right now. Databases were created earlier to capture the historical things, but databases are not good for handling current situation. What is happening, like when you perform a credit card transaction, that is an event. So whenever you maybe tweet or anything happens, that is an event. So databases are not good for capturing the events, but we are talking about anything that is happening right now is an event, something triggered. For example, when you place some order on Amazon.com, so when you place, let's say Amazon.in, you are placing an order. So when you buy some product, then there are multiple events triggered. For example, for one, can you imagine like what kind of events are triggered behind the scene if you place an order in Amazon.in? So when you place an order, what kind of events will trigger behind the scene? Anyone?
Payment.
So
There-
first can be confirmation, like the Amazon can confirm that they have received an order, and after that they can start to process that request based upon location and if a user is a Prime member or not,
Very-
and some
yeah.
details like that, and then delivery process.
Yeah. So maybe one event was order placed. Another event is maybe shipping process initiated, right? So shipping process initiated. After that, like this is all.
Payment can be one.
After that, maybe inventory level went down, or you are reducing the inventory level, or maybe payment settlement event started, right? So there can be multiple events happening behind the scenes depending on the systems that you have. So multiple events here. So these events are very important in terms of, yeah, first time you are registering the customer, and then maybe you are sending emails, that is an sending email, order confirmation email, that is another event, right? Sending email. So another event. So you can see like in real world, we are always dealing with events. Like when you add a friend in Facebook, or when you basically send a message. So these are all events happening, which are happening right now, right? So you can say multiple events. So this is like about events, but you know, these events are like, so we need a platform to store events. We want to store these events. We want to process these events. We want to analyze these events. We want to ingest these events, like ingestion means like we want to import, or like from external systems, you want to bring in those events. You want to replay those events. I will talk about these. You want to restore object state using these events, object state using these events. So you can see so many events are happening, and these events, these events are happening like this. So ingestion of events, you are bringing data. So you can imagine a scale, the data velocity is very high. So you are maybe ingesting 1 terabyte data. For example, I was working for one of the companies where I was ingesting 1 terabyte data per day, per hour, sorry. So it was 1 terabyte data per hour. So you are ingesting data with high velocity. The data velocity is very high, and you are ingesting that. So this platform should take care of high velocity data. Storing events, so you will be storing data for long term. So you don't want to store it for short term. So you want to buffer the data so that the events are not lost actually. So they are there because, you know, due to compliance, you may be asked to reproduce, or you want to basically go back in time and you want to recreate that. So long term storage is very important because banks, they store data for 7 years or maybe 10 years. So they store data for long term, right? And it is buffering of data. It is a requirement. So we have to store it for long term. We don't want to lose the data. And then processing events means, you know, this is like real time data processing. For example, you know, surcharge, Uber surcharge. So Uber uses Kafka for computing this surcharge. So this is like real-time data processing. So Uber uses Kafka for that. Apart from that, analyzing events, you want to maybe fire SQL query, and you want to maybe find out the top trends. You want to find out the trends in the data, in the events, right? What is happening, like what kind of events are coming. Maybe some events are basically showing you that there is a distributed denial of service attack on the website, or there are some events which are basically highlighting anomaly in the transactions which are happening, right? So maybe some fraud is happening, so you want to detect that in the real time. You don't want to do it maybe after fraud has happened, if then you are taking action, it will be too late. So you want to do it then and there itself. So that is, you want to find out the trend in the events. Replaying the events. So you want to replay. That means like if court will ask you like what happened on that particular day at that particular time, so you have to go back in time. So you want to replay events, you want to recreate object state. So these are some of the use cases like where we want to restore the object state. So we want to ensure that we are go back in time. So, and we want to ensure that we are able to recreate what happened on that particular day. And this may be an evidence in the court, right? So when you have to reproduce something in the court, right? So these are some of the things that we need to take care, like restoring object state and these two things, like are examples of going back in time. So do you have any questions on the things that I have mentioned? If you are not very clear with any of these things, please feel free to ask.
Sir, about long-term buffer data store events.
So you are not clear with this? Yeah.
No, sir. Sir, about buffer data problems.
Okay, Twitter.
Yes.
Twitter is sending the data, and this data goes to Kafka, let's say, and then it goes to HDFS. This is Kafka, and this is HDFS. Let's say this is HDFS. So when data is flowing, so Kafka can store events, tweets, right? So it can store tweets for maybe 7 years or maybe whatever time it is configurable for long term. So it can buffer it. This is called buffering. So what is the advantage of buffering? Can someone tell me what is the advantage of buffering? Buffering means you are storing your tweets for long term. What is the benefit of buffering?
Instead of real time, you can execute batch as well.
Very good. So when you buffer, then you are basically maybe your sync is not able to catch up. Let's say this is your sync and this is your source, right? So this is, I'm representing Kafka high level. Actually, Kafka Connect is also there, but right now we will introduce that complexity later. But for the timing, just understand that first, like one option is you go through like in-person training. Like another option is you watch a pre-recorded course. Which one is better? Like Akshay, which course is better? Like, do you want to watch a pre-recorded course or do you want to watch live?
Watch live is better. After that, we can see recording, but live is better than recordings.
Yeah. So, but if you see, if you are, let's say, not available at that time, let's say the live session is happening at 8 o'clock, but you are not available, right? So the benefits of buffering is the sync. I'm writing sync now. Sync, I'm referring sync to this one. Sync can be offline. And in this case, you can say this is you who is consuming
Okay,
that,
sir.
and this is the source. So sync can be offline, maybe undergoing some maintenance, this system, maybe some restarts are happening or undergoing some maintenance activity, and it is not available, right? So from that perspective, it is good. Now, another thing is like we have second benefit is like sync can read at its own pace. So some people, they play video at 2x speed. Some people, they play video at 1x speed. Some people play video at 1.5x speed. So that means some systems are batch, some systems are near real time, some systems are real time. So they can consume data at their own pace. Are we clear, Akshay? Like
Yes, clear.
yeah. So if you are having pre-recorded course, then you can watch at your own pace. So that is another
Yes,
benefit.
sir.
And there are many other benefits, like if you are keeping data for long-term buffering, then multiple syncs can consume. Let's say HDFS has already consumed the data from Kafka, but Twitter tweets are still there. So multiple syncs, maybe, for example, apart from like HDFS, we may be having Elasticsearch, or maybe we are having something else like HBase or S3 or something else. So these systems can also consume data because it is still there. It is not gone, because Twitter is pushing data. And if Twitter
Yes,
is
sir.
pushing data, then that will not help. So there are multiple benefits. So that's why we are saying buffering data will help. Any other point that you are not very clear with? Hope you are clear. This one is millisecond latency is possible.
Yes,
Millisecond
sir.
latency is possible. And other things are okay. So let's go back and let's see. We are talking about Apache Kafka. And I am saying that Apache Kafka is an event streaming platform. Event streaming platform. And this platform is having ability to deal with all these situations. So this platform, Apache Kafka, is helping us in solving these problems. How do we ingest large amount of like data? How do we ingest data coming at a very high velocity? How do we process those events in millisecond time? How do we analyze events? How do we replay events? How do we restore events? So all these capabilities are available with Apache Kafka. If you talk about Scoop, then Scoop is batch, right? If you have to compare, because you have done Scoop. So if you have to compare Scoop versus Kafka, we have one video also. I'm not sure if it is released. If it is not released, then we will release that video. So we have compared these two technologies. So if you see like Scoop is having a different purpose. So Scoop was by Cloudera. This is by Cloudera company, and it was in year 2011 only, LinkedIn. So this is by LinkedIn, both in 2011. So this one is completely batch. So this is very slow. This one is can handle near real-time data also. So no problem. Now, apart from that, Scoop is only for primarily you will see RDBMS or maybe HBase or DB2 or very specific uh, cases. But here, Kafka can integrate with anything because we can any source or sync because we have connectors. Kafka Connect has connectors through which you can connect. Apart from that, you will see Scoop is having very different capability. It is working with historical data, but Kafka is working with events. It's an event streaming platform, so which is much more powerful than dealing with just historical data. So there are many other differences platform. So hope you are clear with the differences because you just did Scoop, so it makes sense to talk about it very quickly. And the Scoop is a wrapper over MapReduce or Spark or Tez, right? So these frameworks, under the hood, these frameworks are running, but Kafka has its own ecosystem, has its own architecture, own ecosystem or architecture. Are we clear with this thing? So now coming back here, if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Do we have any another system also which is more efficient than Kafka?
Good. So here we have many other systems. It's not like Kafka. Kafka is one of the most commonly used, but we do have Solace. So this one is like, I'm just writing Apache Solace. So this is commonly compared with Kafka, but right now we have not even discussed the comparison or maybe the internals of Kafka. So it does not make sense to go inside the Solace, but I'm just sharing. There are many frameworks that you will see, like Apache Solace is there, and then Apache Pulsar is there. So there are many systems. But the question is, how many companies are using these systems? That is more important. So I will just, Diptansh, are we clear? There are other systems also. It's not like we are just talking about Apache Kafka, even though the agenda is that, but I want to, this is a very good question that you raised. So I'm just sharing like Apache Kafka is one thing. Why we are talking about Apache Kafka? Because more than 40% of Fortune 500 companies are using Apache Kafka. That's why we are discussing this. Fortune 5. Are we clear, Diptansh? Like maturity of the framework is also very important. Production use cases are very important.
Yes, you can say globally accepted.
Absolutely, yeah. So it should not happen that you start working with some open source technology after maybe 1 year, 2 years, no one is contributing. Then your project is already implementing that, and then you will be in trouble. So we should not go for those where we have these kind of issues. Okay, so now
Sir, sir, Scoop is not used for real-time data, is
no,
it?
no, Scoop is not for real-time data. It is batch. It is very slow.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
No problem.
One more question, Avuk.
Mhm,
You written your real-time data
mhm, mhm.
instead of real-time data. So means if you consider the credit card transactions, are those real-time? Means maybe behind scenario are those with Kafka or something else?
So technically, like, okay, so what is the definition of real time? Technically, the definition is when the action is time bound. When action is time bound. Mission critical application, like mission critical application. Or you can say life or death situation is there. Life or death situation. Right? So when like these are mission critical applications. So when we say real time, the actual definition of real time is when time is well defined. If that thing does, like engine failover of aeroplane, if it does not, let's say in an aeroplane we have two engines. If engine does not fail over from like the maybe one engine to another one, then crash can happen, right? So that is a real time thing. So in general, like in specifically or technically, if I say, then real time means this thing. And now when we have time associated, now Kafka is a distributed system. It is fast, it is giving us high throughput, low latency, and there are so many benchmarks done. So we can say that we are able to achieve millisecond latency. Also we are able to process 1 terabyte data per hour. Now definition of real time will vary from person to person. That's why I am saying technically or well accepted definition of real time is like when something is time bound, this has to happen within that particular time. So I'm thinking aloud, like right now I'm just writing near real time. But if someone is saying real time, it's fine. Like in enterprise, real time is fine. And credit card transactions can happen through Kafka, no problem, because in credit card transaction also it takes some time, and it is not time bound. It may time out also sometimes, right? And it is not causing anything. Like even if timeout is happening, then also there is no gain or loss situation. Definitely customer experience will be impacted, but otherwise it is not like considered real time as such. Like it is near real time, I would say. Is that okay, Diptansh? Are we clear?
Okay.
Yeah. So I will take up some questions from the chat. Which is better, Scoop or Kafka? Akshay. So very first thing, like Scoop is batch and Kafka is real time. And I mentioned this thing like we can actually work with databases also, like row, if row is added in the database. So Kafka pipelines are always running. So I will write down few more differences. So Kafka, if you see, I'm just writing, it's always on, always running. This is always running. This is on demand. So if you say that I will or schedule it on demand or ad hoc or schedule it, or maybe you can say ad hoc or on demand, you can schedule it. So you are triggering a job, right? Scoop job. But here Kafka, it is 24/7. Pipelines are running. That means they are listening for data and they are ingesting data. Are we clear with this thing? Yeah. So Akshay, are we clear? Like what's the difference between Scoop and Kafka?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Keshav, Scoop does not handle real-time data. Yeah, Scoop is not for real-time data. Okay, great. So I'm moving on now. So if you are clear, let's go to some practical things also. So let's see one blog. So actually there is a lot of theory behind Kafka, and I have already created so many videos which are covering that theory. So in case you are interested to know more about Kafka, I would suggest go to our channel, and here you will find if you go to our YouTube channel, and here you can watch why Kafka is popular, and then you can also watch Kafka architecture in depth, and you can watch a short introduction to Kafka. Lot of theoretical videos are available, but I think like it will make much more sense if I show you something practical here, so that like it complements the existing videos which are already there on our channel. You can watch these videos. This like, because if I spend another 40 minutes to explain this, it does not make sense. Or we have another one like there is a video which is on clearing certification. In case you are planning to clear the certification, then you can watch that video. Just write Confluent certification data couch. You will find we have already released one video for this, right? So you can have a look. So now I'm actually starting with a blog. So this blog, we have, let me see if I can show you that blog. It should be here. Yeah. So this is a blog. And in this blog, we have step-by-step instructions to install Kafka. And this has the required details to actually work with Kafka. So what I will do, I will follow this blog and I will basically be executing on my system. If you do it at your end, then it is going to take some time because you have to install the Kafka Docker first. And then if Docker is installed, then Confluent also takes time. So we will basically be focusing on this installing Confluent platform having Apache Kafka using Docker. Now, first question is, what is Confluent? And then we will see other things. So let's discuss some theory behind Confluent, and then I will come back here. So Confluent is actually, this is Apache Kafka. This is Apache Kafka. And this is Confluent. And then this one is a community edition, and this one is enterprise edition. So maybe these circles are not very perfect, but let me. So I'm writing here, Apache Kafka is here. Apache Kafka is here. This one is Confluent Community Edition. This one is Confluent Enterprise Edition. Enterprise Edition. So this one you have to pay. Paid. This one is free. So Community Edition is free. This one is paid. So here you get a lot of support. You get a lot of things like certified connectors to connect to external sources, certified connectors, and many advanced tools, many tools, additional tools. And here you get many tools which are free of cost, right? So that is basically one difference. Now, if you know, like, like if you have to download Linux or Unix, how do you download Linux or Unix? From where you download your Linux or Unix? Do you go to kernel.org?
From the distros.
From
if I have to use Ubuntu, then I just download it from the ISO file from the website.
Yeah, can I say Red Hat, Ubuntu? Can I say that? So you download from Red Hat or Ubuntu. So this is enterprise version or distribution, right? So here, let's say if you have to get Spark, then raw is available on spark.apache.org. So you have that on Apache. But you go to Databricks provides that. Similarly, when you want Hadoop, then you don't go to hadoop.apache.org. You go to Cloudera, right? If you have Kafka requirement, then you don't go to Apache Kafka, you go to Confluent. So are we clear with the things that I want to mention here? If you want Python, data science libraries, then you can actually get from open source like Pandas, NumPy, and so many things are there, etc. But you go to Anaconda, right? So there are so many distributions, and similarly TensorFlow and other things. But I hope you are getting the sense what I am trying to communicate here is like we don't
Yes, sir.
raw, but we go for the Confluent. So Confluent is giving us enterprise distribution. And actually it is basically wrapping Apache Kafka, but it is providing some additional capabilities. So these tools, let's say, for example, schema management, schema registry is like one tool. And similarly, you will find in enterprise, we have replicator. So similarly, replicator means you want to replicate data from one Kafka cluster to another Kafka cluster. And similarly, auto data balancer and many other tools are there. But for the time being, I will just go back. I hope you are clear with the Confluent. So that's why I have written Confluent platform, because it is giving a lot of additional capabilities which are not there in Apache Kafka. So now, when we have already installed this, then I have already installed it. You can follow this instructions. So you'll find like we have this. I'm not sure how many people have worked with Docker. Docker. Have you worked with Docker before? Docker containers. Anyone worked with Docker containers?
No, sir.
Siddharth, did you work with Docker?
No.
Okay, no problem. So I will give you a quick crash course in Docker. So you know, have you heard about like virtual machines?
Yes.
Okay,
What kind
Yes,
of
sir.
virtual environment?
machine. What are virtual machines? They are basically, for example, you can actually create virtual machines for, let's say, when you have a virtual machine. This is my physical system,
Another system.
physical hardware, and on top of physical hardware, we have this virtual machine, another virtual machine. So maybe I'm having Mac here. So Mac has OS X files like OS, and then here, if you go, you can have Windows on Mac. So this is physical, but this one is virtual hardware, virtual machine on the same hardware. So this is Windows, or maybe this is Linux. So you can have different, right? So you can say we are doing resource sharing by having virtual machines on top of physical hardware, right? So if you see, what is the problem with this approach? The problems, what are the problems with this approach? What are the problems with virtual machine based approach? They are very bulky. For example, they are in gigabytes. But we have another thing which is called, which are called containers, and they are very lightweight, and they are in maybe MBs. They are in MBs. Virtual machines, they take time to spin up, to start. Maybe 5 minutes to 10 minutes or 15 minutes, depends. So they maybe 5 minutes to 10 minutes, but containers, they are very quick to start. So they can start in seconds maximum, right? So, you know, like Amazon.com, if let's say there is a lot of traffic on Amazon.com, and if Amazon.com is slow for 1 minute, then what will be the impact? They will lose millions of dollars. They will lose a lot of money because they cannot afford that. So that's why containers started to become popular, because they are giving us ability to start. For example, you are starting web containers, you are starting application containers, you are starting maybe containers for serving the static content. So you have multiple containers, you are quickly starting, and virtual machines, they are very slow. And you know, load balancer also takes times to detect. You know, load balancer, they have warming up time, and they take time to actually warm up. But this is not a problem here, because here the ecosystem is completely different. So they have their own way of like scaling up and orchestration and other things. So they have their own way, because Kubernetes is there. Docker is a platform which is giving us ability to create containers. So containers, basically, you know, containers in shipping industry. So containers term is coming from there. So containers are basically bundling. Containers, they bundle all the application dependencies and libraries, configuration files, etc. And so conf files or libraries, etc. And they are just ensuring that when you have to migrate your application from one environment to another environment, then it does not impact. So are we clear? But virtual machines, they have their own issues. Migration is not easy from one environment to another. Migration is not easy. Yeah, when you have to migrate from one environment.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, Keshav.
Yeah, sir. I was saying that virtual machine. Can we say like virtual machine is running a virtual machine over a machine? Like the Windows is there in a machine, right?
Yeah.
And virtually we are running Ubuntu. That is virtual machine, right?
Yes. Yes. So here we have copy of,
If I'm not wrong.
yes. Can you see? Copy of another OS. This is
But
copy of,
what is container? Yeah, that is the copy of another OS. But what is containers? How can we compare a machine? What is container? I'm not getting the container term.
okay, so if you see, this is Docker software, Docker software. And here we have another one which is like a container. So container is a process in simple terms, or you can say we have you heard about, like, there is a registry. I'm just explaining this in more detail, so just understand. So we have a registry, and in this registry we have containers, images, container images. So what happens, like, when you spin up, one thing, I'm introducing some terms, then it will be clearer. Image is basically like, in virtual machine also we have an image, and then container is created from an image, from an image, and this container is actually runtime. This is runtime process, you can see, from the image. So image is size is usually in MBs. So what is image? So let's say image can be like lightweight Linux, lightweight operating system, Alpine. For example, the name is Alpine. So this Alpine is basically like version of Linux only, but it is very lightweight. This is one example. Second example is Apache HTTPD. Have you used that, Apache HTTPD or Apache web server, or have you used it? Any web server have you used? Tomcat?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
No.
Yeah.
You can say, like, we have different types of images. Are we clear? Like, we have different types of images. They are in MBs, and we create container from the images. And these containers are actually like these are processes which are running on the Docker software, Docker, like providing the runtime. And these containers, this is another container. So there are multiple containers running. So these containers are nothing but, if you see, these are basically having different like capabilities. Like this container is like operating system only, but it is very light version of Linux. This one is web server. This one is like Tomcat. Similarly, you can have another type of container. So different types of containers are there. Does it make sense? Like, what is a container? Container is nothing but a lightweight version of maybe operating system. It can be like Alpine, or it can be like doing some web server work, or it can be doing application server work. So these are basically processes which will be created from the images, and these images are actually stored in a registry. This is called Docker registry.
Excuse me, sir. Can I ask one query?
Yeah.
Yeah. So container. See, you are saying that container, sir, it is created from image file, right?
Yeah.
Is it? So it means that in Ubuntu, if we are running the virtual machine, then also the containers are being created.
So when you are running virtual machine, then the architecture is completely different. So it is having the bulk. This is another operating system. So entire operating system is here, which is in gigabytes. But this one is in MBs. The size of the like image from where it is created, it's very small. But here the size is very large. This is having like entire operating system copy. This one is having various.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, so it is very bulky. It is not nimble. It is
Got
not.
it, sir. Like it is creating a container.
Which one?
So it is the container is being created, and but the size is very high, huge. Is it like that?
It is not called container because it is not based on that technology. You know, container architecture is very different, because here in container, this is based on the layers, based on various layers. Actually, this layer, let's say, I'm quickly trying to summarize, because our focus is mostly in Confluent, but don't worry. So in container, what happens? So this is based on various layers. So there is a base layer, and then we have another layer, maybe Alpine, which is operating system. This is maybe base layer can be Alpine. So let's say we have a container, which is Alpine operating system. And then on top of that, we have installed some web server, which is maybe HTTPD, right? So you can see this is like a layered, these are like layers in container. So container architecture is very much modular. This is very much modular, and it is basically designed to support web microservices. So these are very helpful in running microservices. In microservices, we have single responsibility. So we want each container basically should run a particular type of microservices. For example, if more orders are coming, then we will scale that order related microservices or order related container. So you can say this is a very bulky and this is very lightweight, and we can have containers of different types in an application. So in a microservices based application, you can imagine like we have, let's say, this container, this container, this container, this container, this container, this container. So this is web container, web container, web container. So let's say this is another container, app, app, app. And we are basically scaling. When you are scaling, so if more traffic is coming, then you will scale up these containers, then you will spin up more containers, and spinning up these containers will take few seconds. It will not take much time. But if you are doing it through virtual machine based approach, they are already very bulky in size and they take time to spin up. So that's why we go for container based approach rather than going for. So this is basically for legacy applications, old way monolithic applications. Usually they are host on the virtual machines, but now the microservices based architecture, you will see they are based on container based approach. Does it make sense? Like what is a container? Container architecture is completely different. It is based on layers. So you will get to know more once we see some examples like what exactly is happening. But right now in this, I have already done so many things behind the scenes because my focus was mostly Confluent Kafka. So I was basically planning to, we can have a separate session on containers, but for the timing, if you have any questions, please do let me know. If you have quick questions, any quick questions? Okay. Okay, so I hope you are getting some sense of it. Like container is not, if you are interested, actually I gave one presentation in Starbucks like Starbucks coffee in Seattle. So let me pull out some of the things from there, but it will basically go in that direction or other direction. So let me see if I can show you what is the difference between container and a virtual machine in more detailed level. So let me show you something. So let's say we have this example. So you can say we in virtual machine based approach, we have guest operating system, and this is called host operating system. But in case of containers, it is not the case. The architecture is completely different. If you are able to get it in with this diagram, then it's great. Otherwise, we can connect maybe separately. So we'll focus more on Confluent Kafka. I'm showing you the difference between virtual machine based approach and container based approach. Yeah, so here we are not having the entire copy of the guest operating system. So this is entire copy. And here, this is very thin, very lightweight, and it is interacting with the OS kernel, but in between we have the software which is enabling this. The daemon, Docker daemon is running, which is enabling this process. So these are like, we don't have to install guest OS. They consume less CPU, they consume less RAM, they consume less storage. And these containers can be, like, multiple containers can be created in one in one server, because in like if you have 16 gigs of system, then if you can create maybe 3 virtual machine of maybe 4 gigs each, because some resources are required for host system also. But if you are running containers, then you can run multiple containers, like maybe hundreds of containers in the same system, right? Even like that's the difference, because we are not doing the operating system copy, and it is very easy to port. If you see shipping containers, they are very easy to port, and they are very easy to manage, and they are very good for microservices. So this is a very high level idea behind the containers. Diptansh, are you getting some idea like what exactly are containers?
Yeah, I think basic clear.
Okay, yeah. So those who are coming from college, if you are not very clear, we can connect later. But for the time being, if you are okay, then we can move on. Okay. So this picture should help. Now I was here. So we want to spin up, in an enterprise application, we have multiple things. So if you see like in an enterprise, as we are comparing both virtual machines, so there must be some similarity. What is that? So similarity is like you are running your services or APIs. You can expose your APIs in both. So from your application point of view, the similarity is you can, earlier that was basically old approach, monolithic services. If you are hosting, then you would be going for virtual machine based approach. But if you are doing microservices, then you will be going for container based approach. So you can expose your services in both. basically because both are unit of compute, or you can say, yeah. So you both are giving you ability to host your services. Okay. Now we are talking about Confluent Kafka. So let's go back to the terminal and I will start so I have my terminal open. So in this terminal, you can see I have this terminal where I have Docker compose.yml. So very first thing is, what is Docker Compose? We talked about Docker. Docker is basically giving us ability to create containers, Docker daemon, right? So we are here right now, we are talking about, so can you see, we have already downloaded Docker Compose from this URL, and this URL actually from Confluent. So we have downloaded that, this link, this particular YML, yet another markup language. So this YML file, we want to basically see what exactly it is having and what it will be doing for us. So very first thing is, what Docker is enabling us to create containers. So we have a Docker daemon running, right? So then we have Docker Compose. So in an enterprise, we have multiple types of containers, In Kafka, we have multiple types of containers. So Kafka architecture is not simple, and I have explained that in a video, 20 minutes video. You can watch that video. So Kafka architecture, we have many daemons, many processes, right? So many processes, and these processes we will be spinning up through containers, many daemons, long running daemons. So these processes, long running processes. So we want to create daemons. So there will be Zookeeper, there will be broker, there will be Confluent Control Center, there will be broker for KSQL. So there will be multiple daemons here. So in case you are interested to know more about it, I would highly recommend a video. This video has the Kafka architecture details. So this session, I don't want to repeat what I have already covered in another video. So I will just give the reference of that video. So please watch this video. You will get fair amount of idea like how Kafka works internally. I have done a lot of whiteboarding. This is in my handwriting. So here you will see we have Zookeeper, we have broker. So just understand, producers are producing data, consumers are consuming data, and here Kafka is storing the data. This is Kafka cluster and this is Zookeeper cluster. So Zookeeper cluster is basically helping Kafka to store this metadata, and it is also helping in registering the brokers, and many other responsibilities are there for Zookeeper. So in this architecture, we can see there are high level components. I have already explained in the video, so you can watch. But if you go back, so I'm talking about Kafka architecture. So I'm saying that we have Zookeeper, we have broker. This is called broker. So there's another one. So you will see there are many other components in Kafka. There are many other moving parts in Kafka, which will enable us to store, process, analyze, and so many things we can do in Kafka. So what is happening here is, like, we want to spin up this. So I'm here right now, and I have Docker compose.yml file. This Docker compose.yml file will enable us to work with multiple types of containers. So you can, with one single command, we will be able to start the containers, and we will be able to shut down the containers. So let's say we are here and we want to work with Docker Compose. So I will just go back to the log, and here you can see there is a command Docker Compose up -d. So when you are running this command, please ensure that you are in the same directory where we have Docker Compose YML. If that file is not there, then it will not work. So you are running this command. What this command is doing, so it will bring up the containers. So -d, we are doing in like background processes should run. We don't want it should be in the foreground. So can you see it is starting the Zookeeper, and it is starting the broker, it is starting the schema registry, Kafka Connect, REST proxy, KSQL, and many other things. So it is starting a lot of products of Confluent, and like schema registry is product of Confluent, control center is a product of Confluent. So it is starting these things along with the Apache Kafka, and you can see it has started the broker. And if you want to know what is broker, broker is actually a process of Kafka that I have explained in this video, and Zookeeper is here. So it has started everything for us. So if you do Docker -compose down, then it will bring down these things. So you can shut down in one single command. You are working with multiple containers. If you go back to the whiteboard, now you can relate. We have multiple types of containers, and using one single command, we are able to bring up, bring down. So we can say we want to bring down, so we can shut down these things, right? So that's basically idea. So any questions till now, we can do Docker PS, Docker Compose PS. And can you see when we do that, then we can see these containers are running and their status is up, and it is showing us like the broker, the name is broker, and it is showing us connect, it is showing us control center. So it is showing us all these details. So it is basically mapping the port from host to container. So this is another thing, but we are interested to know whether Kafka is up and running or not. So by this command, using PS command, we are able to see Kafka is up and running because broker is up and running. So if this is good and Zookeeper is running, then both things will enable us to store data in Kafka. So we will be producing data and we will be consuming data from Kafka. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, so this container, we are basically producing data, we are consuming data. So let's go down and let's see. We want to now go inside Kafka. So this container, we want to go inside this container. So this command will help us in going inside the container. So broker is the container name and we are doing bash. So we are running a command, we are executing a command, and this will basically help us. This command will help us in going inside the container, and it is giving us interactive way of going inside the, we are getting a bash shell. So we are able to execute Docker execute command, and we are able to go inside the container. So right now we are into broker container. And if I do ls, then nothing is there in my home directory, but I can do ls/etc/kafka/properties. So I have, if I do that, so I can see so many property files are there. So we can do cat and we can do etc kafka.properties. So you can see we are inside Kafka right now. So we can see the property files and other things. Yeah. So now, if you have any questions, please let me know. Like we are inside the container. So let me exit out of it and I'll clear everything. But we just saw the various containers running. We just went inside the container and we were, this terminal is actually my normal terminal. And in this terminal, I am able to run the Docker commands because I have already installed Docker on my system, and the instructions are to install Docker are given on top of this blog. You can watch that. You can have a look, right? So yeah. So next one is we want to now work with Kafka. So very first thing is Kafka is installed and Zookeeper is installed. Kafka brokers are there, Zookeeper is there, and we have other Confluent services as well up and running. So we want to work with Kafka. So in order to work with Kafka, so we have to basically have producers will be producing data, consumers will be consuming data, and in between we have Kafka cluster, and here Kafka cluster we have topic. Topic is like a newspaper name. Topic is like newspaper name. So for example, Times of India or Hindustan Times. So that is newspaper name, and producer producing and consumers consuming. Now, before we can work with Kafka, so we will be creating a topic. So first of all, the steps. Step number 1 is to create a topic. So that means we are creating a newspaper in Kafka. So we have to define pages, define number of pages in the newspaper. So we are defining that number of pages in newspaper. This is called partition. Called partition. This is like how many times the page is replicated. Page is replicated. So we will define that how many times the page is duplicated because it provides fault tolerance. It helps in fault tolerance. So you will define that also. You will create a topic, you will create a newspaper, and you will define how many pages and how many times that data will be duplicated. Second step will be, step number 2 is to produce data. And step number 3 is to consume data. So these are 3 steps that we will be doing. So let's start with the very first step. So we will be creating a topic, right? So for creating the topic, we have a command. And can you see this topic? We are saying create a topic and we are giving the name. The name of the topic is users. So if I go back here, I will clear everything because containers are up and running. That means I can create a topic. So I have this topic. Oh, sorry, I need to go inside the container. So let's go inside the container. So I'm going inside the container. This is a broker container and I'm creating a topic. So this topic is created. Now I want to do one more thing, like I want to produce data. I did first step. First step is to, first of all, create a newspaper. So I created a newspaper. Now I want to publish data. The producers will produce the data and consumers will consume the data. So I will, this command line I will be using for producing the data. So for producing the data, I can directly go to the producer command and I will paste it here and I will run it here. And I will say, hi, this is a demo of Kafka producer. So we are producing data, Kafka producer and consumer. So this is help. This is another message, right? So there are 3 messages right now. There are 3 messages. So we are producing that data and we want to consume it. So in order to consume it, we will log into the broker again. So what I will do, I'll just use this command and I will start a consumer. So I will go to another terminal. I will log into the broker and then I will run a command to consume the data. So I'm saying, read this newspaper. This is the consumer. And I'm saying, read this newspaper name I am giving and start from the beginning, right? So I'm reading this newspaper. I'm starting from the beginning. So I will just run it. Then I should see 3 messages because I just sent 3 messages from the producer side. If I say, hi, this is another message. Let's say, hi, this is another message. So I just sent one more message. And can you see, I just got 4th message, which is, hi, this is another message. If I do hi, then I should see this here because consumers are able to consume data from Kafka. So producers are producing and consumers are consuming. Any questions on this demo or the steps that we performed? If you are not very clear with any of the commands, please let me know. So how to create a topic. So we created a topic with this. Yeah. So what we specified, we have specified the name of the topic. Can you see? Topic name is user. And when we are producing, then we are producing to this newspaper. And when we are consuming, then we are consuming from this newspaper. So we have given the newspaper name. So because topic is like a newspaper name. So you are creating a topic, you are giving the name, and then you are saying how many pages we have in the newspaper. So that is 1. So we are saying, when we create a topic, we define number of pages. We define how many times it will be replicated. So you can see we have 1 partition, 1 page, and there is only 1 copy. We are not creating multiple copies because we have only 1 single broker right now. But if it is a distributed Kafka cluster, then it will be 3 usually. Like, so are we clear, Hemanya? Like, how do we create a topic? If you're not very clear with the command, please let me know. Yeah, so is it possible to read a message which is already read by using some other consumer? Yes, Diptansh, that's the benefit of Kafka. So your consumers, another consumer can read from the same topic from the beginning. So you can have, can you see here, we have from beginning. And similarly, you can also say that I want to read from the latest message, or I want to read from a specific offset. So you have all the control, like because messages are stored in Kafka for long term, because you have a configuration. You can define for how long you want to keep data in Kafka. By default, it is 7 days. But if you want to change that configuration and you want to keep data for 7 years, you can do that. It is highly configurable, and other consumers can consume data till it is like the retention period is not elapsed. Are we clear, Dipansh? But there are other complexities also in the retention period. But for the time being, on a very high level, I'm saying that we can store data in Kafka for long term, and the consumers can consume even if message is consumed by one consumer. It is not acknowledgement based systems. So in case of other messaging systems, you must have seen that after like one consumer will consume the data, then the system or the queue will get the acknowledgement and queue will remove that message. But it does not happen in Kafka. Kafka will keep the data for long term, even if message is consumed by one consumer. So other consumers can still see that. So for retention, Kafka is using no. Kafka architecture is completely different. So I have one video of Kafka replication. I think that is already released. I'm not sure. Let me check. Kafka replication data couch. If you go to that, you will see. Uh, I think so. We have already released that video. I need to check where exactly it is. But this replication, if it is not there, then we'll release it in 1 or 2 days. It's already ready for the release. So I'm just thinking aloud, like a Kafka replication happens in a different manner. It is not HDFS based replication, and it is based on interesting concepts related to like this will take another 10-15 minutes. How does replication works in Kafka, but it is different from HDFS. It is not using HDFS at all. Okay, any other question apart from that? So in case you are planning to appear for the certification of Kafka, I would recommend go for that video that I have shared earlier in this, on our YouTube channel, you will find there is a video for preparing for Confluent Kafka exam. So you can target that. So very quickly, I'm checking. Akshay, do you have any questions on whatever we discussed till now? Are we clear about the platform we are using Docker containers, because we are able to spin up multiple things together? Yeah. So we have our, I'm just showing you LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, you can go to our data couch page. So this page, we are sharing a lot of interesting information, and here we are we are sharing many things related to. So I'm just going down. So we are sharing a lot of information. We are sharing a lot of cheat sheets and many other things. So there are so many posts that we are sharing. So these are regular quotes that we are sharing. This is CNN cheat sheet that we shared recently. So this is having a lot of information like our LinkedIn page. So please do follow this LinkedIn page for getting the updates about the meetups as well as the architecture. This is Kubernetes architecture. Similarly, you will find a lot of interesting things about Google Cloud or Docker commands. So here, if you are not very clear with Docker commands, you want to explore more, then you can refer to this cheat sheet and you can learn more about Docker. Similarly,
Hello,
this,
sir.
yeah, Yakshi.
Sir, can we use Cloudera to run Kafka, sir? As we have not have Docker, so we can use the Cloudera platform to run Kafka.
So we published one blog, how to run Confluent on Cloudera.
Yes, sir. It's a bit for us, sir.
Yeah. So we have that. So this is setting up Confluent Kafka. This was published in 2019. Now you just need to check if all the steps are working fine, because at that time technology has changed a lot. After 2 years, we published it 2 years back. So just run it and see if you are able to run it properly. If you face any issues, then you can just ping me. We can fix the blog.
Sure, sir.
Yeah. So you can have a look. So we are running this on Cloudera. So in case you want to do it, this on Cloudera, Confluent.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So this is another blog that we have already published. Okay, great, Akshay. Anirudh, do you have any questions? Okay, can you share the link of the blog? Sure. So this is the link I'm sharing with everyone in the chat. Okay. Diptansh, any other question apart from that? So,
Nothing else.
okay, Diptansh, what kind of stack do you work right now?
Stack means
Technical stack, or which all technologies are you using?
you can say Spark, PySpark mainly.
Okay, so then this will help you a lot, Kafka, because it is complementing Spark in terms of like storing data for long term, because Spark is for processing. It is not for other things that we discussed, like ingestion specifically. Ingestion, there are some connectors in data source API, but they are not giving those abilities which Kafka can give, Kafka Connect can give. Yeah, so you can explore that. And this will help you in adding one more skill to your profile. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Yeah, Anirudh.
Sir, how can we test, in this current class, we have just sent some messages. So how can we use it to send live data and huge amount of data? How can we test it for huge amount of data? Basically, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, so that is like actually this has to be done through the data pipeline. I think Harshit, we have published one blog for data pipeline or not? Do we have any blog on our website for data pipeline?
I guess it is. Yes.
Okay, so that is fine. Like we have published, I think, blog. If it is not there, then we can publish it. Is I think we have already written that blog. It's just that we have to release it. But this was a basic session to give you introduction. But in general, we can actually build pipelines in Kafka using Kafka Connect. I would highly recommend look at Kafka Connect. And Kafka Connect, you can connect Twitter, for example, lot of data, Twitter. You can integrate Twitter with Kafka Connect. You can build pipelines like this. So I'll just quickly show you how it will look like. So this is Twitter. You get the data, and then you get data in Kafka Connect. And after Kafka Connect, you are having another step, which is Kafka Core. This is Kafka Core. And here we have you are
Do we need Twitter developer account for this?
Yeah, so here you have to create that Twitter developer account, then only you will get access to the Twitter streaming API that is required. And then after that, you can send it to HDFS or Spark or like whatever technology you have in the downstream system, or you can basically serve it through Kafka REST proxy. So you can create such kind of, this is serving layer, this is storage layer, and
Hello,
process.
sir.
Yeah.
Sir, Kafka is based on which programming language, as we know that Java and which other languages it supported Kafka?
You know, Scala, it is built in Scala and Java, but it supports Python also. It has support for REST-based API. So in case you are not comfortable in it has a lot of client libraries. So you will find Java, Scala, JVM based are definitely Java, Scala. But which one you are interested in?
Sir, mainly I focus on Python, sir, Python programming language. Sir.
You'll find, and there are
Yes, sir.
there are others also, like REST-based is there, and then librd Kafka is there, and then you will find there's support for Kotlin and many other things. .NET as well, you will see C#. So there are many client libraries through which you can work with Kafka, but Java, JVM based give you ability to do some low level work, or these are first class citizens in Kafka. So you have more.
Yes, sir. Okay. Sir.
Okay, anything else apart from that?
यही सर जहाँ अर्जित भाई का प्लेसमेंट हुआ है ना यही सर
Akshay, are you speaking? Are you speaking to me or? Okay, so Sanskar, any other question? Raghav or Hemanya? Harshit, are you able to find the blog, or it will take some time?
I guess this particular pipeline that using Kafka is not yet published. It
Okay.
is in the pipeline. I guess within 1 or 2 days we are going to publish that blog.
Sure. Okay. Then you guys can actually implement that. Okay, great. So one thing is this pipeline, and second thing is replication in Kafka video is also ready, so we can publish that as well. Okay, great. So thank you so much for your time, and maybe we'll see you in the next meetup, and that will be on maybe building real-time pipeline using Kafka can be one topic, or maybe we can choose some other topic. So we have not decided that, but will be in the similar lines. So I hope you got value out of your participation by going through this meetup. So please do provide your feedback on the meetup.com itself so that other people can also join. No problem, Akshay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Manirudh. Thank you.
Thanks, Pavuk.
Thank you. Thanks, Dipchanj. Okay, so I will disconnect. Thank you so much. Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.